What up, everybody? It's BBKDRAGOON. Joining me is my great friend EposVox, who is a tech and gaming channel. He is a beast of all things knowledge when it comes to technology. He writes professional articles, too, across the entire internet sphere. You've been writing a ton of articles recapping E3 Epos. You and I have been friends for a long time, but I wanted to bring you in and just have a discussion after the Microsoft conference. Before we get into it, a little bit about yourself. What do you do? Where can people find you?
YouTube.com/EposVox and /EposVox Gaming for the gaming side of things, but they're all linked and cross-promoted and all that jazz. I mainly just do technology videos to make it helpful for everyone, tutorials, reviews, things like that, and gaming stuff when I have time. But
He's modest. You're a tech wizard, man. Okay, so the Xbox conference went down. You were writing recap articles for Tetra Ninja's website about all of the conferences. What really stands out for me looking back at the Xbox conference is obviously the announcement of Scorpio. We're going to have an upgraded Xbox One for sale just 4 years after the initial release of the Xbox One. Does that not just sort of throw a wrench into everything? Is this a historic moment in console gaming?
it is, and I think it's historic in actually a couple different ways, and we'll touch on that in a minute, but it drastically changed the tone and the general just like presence that they had at E3, and it vastly contrasted Nintendo and Sony, who literally like they refused to talk about hardware at E3, and that's all Microsoft wanted to talk about.
It's so interesting, the inverse of like Sony's conference was like, I think Total Biscuit said 8 minutes of talking all throughout the hour and a half, and it was the rest gameplay, which I liked. But man, when we look at the specs of Scorpio, 8 cores, 6 teraflops.
Highest quality pixels.
Yeah. What was that about, dude? It's uncompressed pixel. Like, I was sitting there going, this is just like the Elder Scrolls Online saying they were the MMO of the year, and they have, what, 7 million players? Isn't that what they said?
The number one MMOG.
And then somebody pulled up the, like, population statistics. It's like 23,000, right?
I love 23,000 like
Don't you love it?
2,000 at one time. Yeah, it's...
Why did they say 6 teraflops? Why don't they just say it's got a 4 gig video card in there? Like, what? I've been Googling around. Can we take a stab at the dark at how big the video card is? Or are they just saying teraflops to be like, oh, yeah, that's pretty good. Nobody can quantify that.
Yeah, and that's why they used it, is they wanted to have this big number that sounds impressive that no one knows what it means because they didn't want to reveal the hardware. We're assuming that they're running on AMD Polaris and Zen, the new CPU and graphics architectures. But since most of that wasn't even announced until like 2 hours later at the PC Gamer conference, they probably couldn't say much. I'm assuming the final name of the product is not going to be Project Scorpio anyway, so clearly they just wanted to like get our attention and desperately hope that we'll go pre-order, but not actually tell us anything about what they're giving us.
Dude, what do you think this is going to be priced at? Like, just throwing out ballpark, like for 8 cores, 6 teraflops. I think this is like, what, a $500, $600 machine, yeah?
If it were released today, I'd bet it was 800 actually.
Wow. Because
if you look at it, like the VR kits themselves are 400 to 600, like alone.
Yeah, Sony VR, $400 plus your $400 PS4.
Yeah, so it might drop a little bit when it actually comes out, but it's gonna be high.
We'll have to wait and see, but there's not just one new console announcement at the conference. They did another one, right?
Yeah, the Xbox One S.
The Slim.
They couldn't just call it the Slim.
No. The S. I think it looks pretty good.
Xbox SE.
I wouldn't go out and buy it because I already have one. Like, not a Slim, but I have the big old VCR, which I've kind of grown attached to it. It is so freaking huge that it barely fits into my little cabinet rack that it sits in. So when I look at the Slim, I go, that's pretty nice. It looks really good, and if you haven't jumped into the market, that would be maybe what I buy. But with Scorpio just like a year and a half around the corner, what's the incentive to buy this thing, man, other than I need a new Xbox One right now?
It positions itself, which is kind of an interesting play, but it positions itself in that if you don't have an Xbox One now or something happens to yours, which from what I have been able to tell, they've actually not had any major issues. But if you don't have an Xbox One right now, you get a very good new option that, frankly, we should have had at launch, getting rid of that power brick that we did not need.
Yeah.
But it also makes it to where, like, if you know that there's probably no chance in heck that you're going to have a 4K TV or any of this craziness to take advantage of the new console, you can just go ahead and get a good new Xbox and be okay. Because, I mean, I think you and I were talking about this last week or something. The adoption rate for HD TVs was just recently, like, hitting, like, 75 or 80% or something crazy.
Yeah,
like,
for America.
Us
like
enthusiasts
70%.
like to... Yeah, like, us enthusiasts like to jump on all the new stuff. But as far as mainstream adoption, it's very slow. So it's going to be...
Yeah.
It's going to be for the average consumer, whereas the people who want the latest and greatest in VR, potentially, depending on who they work with, can jump on Scorpio.
Then, right after the announcement of the Slim, the real backbone of the conference was the fact that moving forward, all of their first-party games are in the Windows 10 Play Anywhere program, which means if you buy it once, you own the game and can play it on both Xbox One and Windows 10. Like, all of the games that they announced. Gears of War 4 was the first that opened the announcement with it. I find that to be so, it's awesome. I think it's pretty cool, but at the same time, very conflicting. Because if you are looking at, let's say, Scorpio, and you're going, I want to upgrade my console 4 years after I just got this one, but I could also play it on PC. So if I'm going to be spending $500 or $600, why wouldn't I just buy a PC to play these games that I like on a bigger system that has more utility for just a few $100s more? Am I crazy in thinking that this is sort of conflicting?
It is, and actually that caused my perspective of the conference from when it first aired until basically like earlier today to drastically, completely 180. Because at first my impressions were that they were just like, they got the rumor of the PlayStation Neo and all that stuff, and they were just like, okay, we're not selling Xbox Ones. We need to present options so that people come buy our Xbox Ones. Please, 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 buy our Xbox Ones. But as I processed everything and thought about it more, it's transitioning Xbox to be more of just like something that's an option. Like it's... Yeah. And we'll touch on the service side of things a little bit in just a minute, but it makes Xbox itself as more of a generalized platform, not necessarily just a single box. And so that's why we have so many Xbox Ones now. We have the basic one, the Slim, and the Scorpio is, depending on your needs, you can go buy this box, that box, or this box. Or if you just want to play with your Xbox Live friends and play Xbox titles, you can just download them onto your PC.
Well, it gets even more complicated because an interview with Phil Spencer just today, released on PC Gamer, was confirming moving forward, they are going to be placing all of their first-party titles onto Windows 10, and they've specifically asked about Halo, and he said there is no reason for the next Halo not to be a part of the Play Anywhere program. So this is basically the closest you're going to get to an official confirmation that the next Halo, Halo 6, is going to be available on Windows 10 and Xbox One, which to me, that is the last reason I actually own a console. Like, that's the only reason I own the Xbox was for Halo. So to hear that moving forward, this is what they're doing, it's interesting too. I'm glad he commented on Halo 5 because we had the whole Halo 5 coming to Forge on Windows 10 thing. He stated, I'm not going to have the team go back in time and port Halo 5 over to PC. Even though they probably could, I want them working on the next Halo adventure and that one to be accessible between Windows 10. What do you think of this, man? I mean, this is a historic moment in Halo history and console history where it's like Mario just went to PC. Mario is almost multi-platform, you know?
In a sense, yes, like in terms of recent years, but at the same time, it's kind of what we've frankly deserved from the beginning because that's where Halo started. Like, as much as Halo was the selling point for Xbox, it actually started as a Mac and PC game. And then we had support up through Windows Vista and then for Halo 2, and then they dropped us. And so, but it is still a very big deal because they've always used Halo 5 to leverage Xboxes. And in that article, he specifically said, we're not going to force gamers to buy Xboxes. We're going to let them choose where to play, which is frankly not something I ever thought I'd hear from Microsoft.
It's wild, dude. This is such a change. It's more a focus on selling the software versus the hardware, right?
All I got to do is finish Rise of the Tomb Raider and play a little Gears of War, and I can put my fancy Xbox One on a shelf.
Just as a spoiler, Epos has had a horrible Xbox experience. He hates that console. Like, every time we've tried to play together, nothing ever works. Like, he gets the worst possible circumstances with that console. But you're not entirely wrong, and there's people in the same boat as you going, I'm not buying Scorpio I'm just going to continue playing on the PC, or I'm going to buy a PC. Period.
Right. And now we're not punished for that. We still get to play the same games, even with the same people in many circumstances.
As a brand, they've changed that stance altogether. You know, it's something you linked earlier today was a Time article saying that Halo 5's dynamic resolution was built with foresight in mind, thinking about Scorpio, because its potential that Scorpio could run Halo 5 at 4K resolution, 60 FPS, which when I hear that, I'm just like, that's insane. This whole Scorpio thing has created performance discrepancy within a single console generation. You will now have Xbox One games that will run better on Scorpio. Perhaps, like, look at maybe Destiny. This is an arbitrary example, right? What if Destiny runs at 60 FPS on Scorpio and it only runs at 30 FPS on the Xbox One? Suddenly, devs have an incentive to make games better on Scorpio, right?
Right.
That, to me, is just wild. That feels like a huge punch to the gut for the console crowd who defends it, saying, you know, one of the big benefits is we're all on the same hardware. We're all playing the exact same. There's no advantages or disadvantages, right?
Right. And this actually brings me to how I've kind of felt about the announcement of the new PlayStation, which I guess hasn't been detailed yet. But that and Project Scorpio is that essentially, I mean, and this was talked about ever since the Xbox One and PS4 was announced, but they are made as PCs. They have PC architecture and 100% PC hardware now. Essentially, the console developers are only just realizing like the potential of that, and so we're getting, or people who are buying it are getting essentially what we should have gotten with the PS4 and Xbox One with these new consoles. And some games aren't going to catch up. Some games are going to be left in the dust with poor performance, but a lot of the games were already being developed with those ideas in mind because they were already, you know, working on PC on a PC basis. And so even like Black Ops 3, the multiplayer for that has an adaptive resolution built into it on both platforms, but it just runs at lower resolution on the Xbox by like default. But it already has that built in and will literally change like horizontal resolution on the fly. And so it's essentially like they've all built this just to deal with the hardware they were given in the first place, and suddenly they realized if they just gave it better hardware, it could run better. And they're like, and it seems like that's what they've just decided to do. And with these late announcements, it almost seems like it was a very last minute decision as well.
Totally. It's a paradigm shift. It's a total paradigm shift. You have VR looming in the distance and these guys going, we released our consoles just a few years too early, hardware-wise, to be able to effectively compete in the VR market. We've got to juice it up. It's very interesting for consoles altogether. I want to just continue by saying I'm going PC this fall. I've been thinking about going PC full-time for years. I do play on a boot-camped Mac for StarCraft 2, League of Legends, but I've never been able to play games that were actually built for PCs, like real PC gamers. You know, League and StarCraft, those games are built to run on anything, like just about any low-end system. But I see no reason to upgrade to Scorpio. I'm not going to upgrade to Scorpio. I'd rather save up a little bit of extra money and have a PC that has that utility. I'm glad in some ways. I'm sad in some ways. What are some of those new Xbox Live tools? And you mentioned Xbox is now marketing itself more as a service instead of selling hardware, yeah?
Yeah. And so with the and specifically with the Windows 10 game cross-buys, where you can play it on Windows 10 and Xbox One, you had one thing that they wanted to point out is that all your friends list, all of your game saves are saved to the cloud via Xbox Live, so that carries over Xbox Live over to the PC. And conversely, one of the new features, they're putting Cortana on the Xbox One. So if you have a Kinect and you chat with, you control it via your voice, you get a lot better voice assistance with Cortana. But they also implemented a clubs system, which we don't know a whole lot about yet, but it's basically like a forum clan chat, group chat kind of thing. Like they just said you could find people of relevant interests and stay in touch with them and play with them and things like that on a direct on the console or PC level without having to go to websites. They're implementing arenas, which allows you to find more like publisher set up tournaments without having to know about them outside of the console. And then the last one, which all of this contributes to something that we've complained about a long time with Destiny, is the looking for group tool.
Yeah.
I've taken a strong stance with Destiny from the beginning that despite it being an MMO, it's still a console game, and it's unacceptable to take a stance that players should have to go off-site, off the platform that they're playing the game on, to find other players. And this looking for group tool and the arenas tool and the communities tool all allows players to find each other and play with each other in every game without, having to go to Destiny Tracker or Call of Duty Tracker, things like that. It's all right there on the Xbox or in the Xbox Live atmosphere of sorts, because it will work on PC as well.
One of the cool things is they showed off with Gears of War 4 the cross-play potential for all of the co-op modes. Your PC buddies are going to be able to participate with you on the console. Please, Epos, can we play Gears of War 4 together? I want to do some Horde mode, man. I'm throwing some Gears Ultimate Edition in this video just because of that.
Yes, I am very excited for that. And that's been... this will give Microsoft the advantage over everyone at the moment, is that they're allowing us to cross-play on a direct level. Because Rocket League has it with PC and PS4, but you can't manage friends or anything. It's not Steam versus PlayStation Network. And this allows you to directly say, let's play a Horde match. Let's do it. Voice chat, party chat, all right there. It's going to be awesome.
Yeah, I love how you brought up earlier, just how the conference changed with you, your perception. The first day, you were like, what was that? And then as time went on, at least for me, I'm like, man, they just changed the console industry forever by making this step forward with Scorpio. And you also have PlayStation 4 on the same page with their Neo. I know for me personally, I'm going to take the plunge. I'm excited to go PC this fall. But whatever price point people want, there is actually an option for them to play Xbox games. And that's something that's totally new, totally different. I don't like the idea of performance discrepancy between a Scorpio and an Xbox One. But at the same time, this is cool. And there might be some really big positives out of this.
I'm going to make a bold statement and probably make a lot of people mad in the comments. But I'm going to say that, in a sense, the quote-unquote console war is effectively over, and that while we're sacrificing some issues with, as you mentioned, performance discrepancy and stuff, it's kind of worth it in the sense that we're getting a stronger uniting of gamers being able to play with each other. And while Nintendo's still working out where they fit in the market after the appalling lack of success of the Wii and Wii U, although the 3DS is still doing amazing, PS4, Sony has essentially won the home console market. And so Microsoft is transitioning to being a service and a different kind of platform. And effectively, the triad of console versus console versus console is over.
Yeah. It's crazy. It's an exciting time to be a gamer, man. One day, Activision will own all of us, and it'll be great. Microtransactions for all.
Supply drops in your fridge.
Oh, yeah, you're going to actually have to play a mini game that costs you money to continue when you run out of lives, just to open the fridge and get a snack. It's the future that we've all dreamed of. Dude, thanks for joining me. We're going to be doing more of this stuff in the future. All of Epos' links will be down in the description below. Bro, I'll see you next time.
Yep.